Good evening, everyone. We're going to talk tonight about the word mapping project. So I'm so glad that Laura and Alana are here. I think it's going to make it like seriously 1,000 times better. So we're just going to chat. We're just going to go through and kind of show you how the word mapping project works in third, fifth grade and intervention settings with Alana. So here we go. All right. Um, a couple of years ago, I started to think about this. I was doing a lot of vocabulary, a lot of spelling, morphology in my classroom, and I think with encouragement from others, they kind of encouraged me to write a curriculum for everyone. So about 2 years ago, I started really just putting my head down and kind of doing. Basically, every waking hour that I wasn't in the classroom, I was working on this. It's kind of evolved into what you're going to see tonight. So why I developed it, I think there was a scarcity of materials for grades 3 through 5. It seems like after kind of primary phonics, K through 2, it kind of then what's next? And are there curriculum out there that kind of focus on like all aspects of literacy? And I honestly felt like there weren't. So I kind of just started to write the word mapping project as a reason for it. Um, I also noticed that everything, a lot of things were fragmented. Like maybe you teach vocabulary in this 10 minutes, morphology, maybe spellings. If spelling is taught in grades 3 through 5, is morphology taught in grades 3 through 5? And if it is taught, it seems like it never it was never interwoven. So that's one of the things I wanted to like interweave all these aspects of literacy into one curriculum. Teachers, I've been a teacher for 20 years. We are time poor. There's never enough time. So I wanted to make something where it really was, used time well and something that we could fit into our school day. Okay. Um, Interesting with this project. I originally wrote it for grades 3 through 5, and probably about a third of the interest is with secondary students, middle school, even high school. I even just received an email today, even with adult learners. So I when you see the words, I didn't kind of baby down the curriculum. So secondary folks are looking at it to use with middle school, high school students that need intervention, and some adults that need intervention. So it definitely can be used for older students. So there were some people are trying it out for sure. Okay. So which students benefit? This is simple. All students for sure. Students in gen ed, students in special education as well. English language learners for sure. There's so much language in the word mapping project. Um, Students with dyslexia, especially the spelling part, I've seen really good results with that. And students with developmental language disorder, these are the students that their language is weak and they need to be really immersed in a structured language program. That's what I consider this curriculum. So for sure, those students benefit as well. So it's very simple. The curriculum focus, the core is academic and descriptive vocabulary. So academic vocabulary, words like feature, function that you can see over like in science, in social studies, geography, and descriptive vocabulary. For example, words for like happy, like you can use words like euphoric, content, satisfied, elated. But those words all have shades of meaning with a little happy versus really, really happy. So those words are interwoven in the curriculum as well. Okay. Decoding and fluency is a part. We're going to talk about that. There's daily fluency passages. And definitely when we syllabatize words, I'm using a speech to print approach, where we're really focusing on what spelling patterns can be linked to which sounds. Spelling is definitely a primary focus as well. And morphology kind of ties it in. In the whole curriculum, there are about almost 200 morphology matrices interwoven into the 3 levels of the curriculum. Okay. So when we talk about a synergistic effect, that's why I think, I am. I'm really passionate about it. I think now some other teachers are very passionate. They're seeing some really, really good results because all of these different parts, they're really working together, and we're getting some outcomes that aren't just good, they seem really good. So hopefully down the road, we're gonna see that all across the country and all across the world. Okay. So I'm just going to show you this side. Here's this slide. This was my vision, and this is how I try to interweave everything when you think about spelling, vocabulary, morphology. So right here, the words in each unit. So this is a unit 8 of level C, and it's kind of the sound shull. Okay. So it can be spelled with two spelling patterns, CIAL or TIAL. So that's the concentration with the spelling. Okay. So I first started with the sound and what spelling patterns can make that sound. Then I took basically came up with really good words that students need to know. Beneficial, crucial, confidential, essential. These are core words that kids, like definitely in high school should know, kids in middle school should know, and I think really kids in elementary should start learning these words as well. I learned years ago where efficiency for teaching vocabulary and it stuck better. I paired words with antonyms or words that were not related. So I'm going to teaching beneficial. I'm also going to teach detrimental at the same time. It doesn't take much longer. And doing that contrast, it really like kind of anchors. So if kids remember beneficial, they're thinking detrimental as the opposite, something that's not good. So how we teach in the explicit instruction portion, those words are taught in tandem. Um, with the primary words, what I did as well is, so after teaching, like, I'll just circle here, these 6 words would be taught on one day. Okay. The next day, we would focus on the base, BENE, meaning well, and words like beneficial, benefit, benefactor, benevolent. So the next day, the focus would be on morphology. And as you can see, there's 3 different bases, 3 different roots that are taught in this unit. FIDE meaning trust, really good words like confident or confidant. There's like slight nuance there. And words that are so important in sentences like subsequently, SEQU meaning follow, and consequently. Many students struggle with reading comprehension because they don't realize like, oh, subsequently means, oh, this something's going to follow this. And that's where kind of the comprehension breaks down. So that is like really short, my vision, where all the words came from and how they're all tied together. Okay. And I'll let Laura take this away, the structure part.
Okay, so can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. Um, so Sean kind of already talked about this a little bit, but the first part of the word mapping project, when you're teaching this in your class, when you're introducing the unit, that will be your first part, or the subsequent lessons will begin with a review. And so this is going to start with the review. It's going to be spelling dictation with call and response and mini whiteboards. And we do have video of this coming up, so you'll be able to see what this actually looks like. And that's pretty quick, just a quick review. And then the part 2, like he talked about, you'll do those word pairs on odd days. And then the morphemes, like he showed you with Bene, you'll do those on even days. So it kind of flip flops back and forth like that. And they're recording those in either notebooks or flashcards. But then practicing, you'll see kind of the lesson structure because you do the word pairs and then you do he has some questions and they have to decide which word it is based on the scenario, and then they write the word on their mini whiteboards just to give them a quick check that they're understanding that. And then with the morpheme matrix, there's a matrix and you talk about it a little bit, but then they get to build those words independently. And then and then you come back together and discuss those words and meanings as a whole group. But that's probably one of their favorite parts, favorite lessons is when they get to build those words. And some of them are made, like some of them aren't real words, but it's still a lot of fun for them to think about how those words are built and maybe think about, well, what would that word mean, even though it's not a real word. And then part three, so after you've done either the word pairs or the morpheme matrix, there's those words that you have just taught are then built into a fluency passage. So now they get to see them in the context of a reading passage. And they do that in pairs, and they can do that two times, or you'll see Alana talk about that differently. And then
I
what I
printing
would do
something?
is, what I would do is I would support struggling readers. Uh, with that I needed to help with that maybe struggle a little bit while everyone else is working on that fluency part together. And then the last part is an independent practice that is in the student booklet. And now they get to um, do a review of, no, they have questions that go with the fluency passage. So there is a comprehension piece to that. So they're not just reading it, they're also having to understand it and answer questions about it. And then there's a review section after that of the previous day's work. So if you were doing morphemes the morpheme matrix that day, then they will get questions, a review on the explicit word pairs from the day before. So it's constantly reviewing previous work. And the independent practice is a variety of activities for that are writing and fill in the blank or matching things that so it's not just one kind of thing. They're having to utilize these words in different ways, which really extends their thinking on it. So yeah.
Let's actually pause here because we're getting a whole bunch of questions. So first question from Laura Wood. She's interested in the possibilities of adapting this work for a second grade or like an early primary setting. We'll start there.
So to adapt it is, I would say for second graders, if they're definitely on the more advanced side, they could probably handle it. Some of the morphology work, 'cause the bases that I've taught, they're like, it's like struct, struct, meaning to build. There's no like free bases, like just like a word like happy. Usually in second grade, if we're going to start with morphology matrices, we usually start with like a whole word. But if there's advanced second graders, I think they can definitely handle that. But just thinking like how the structure is of the curriculum, it structures well, I think, starting in third grade, even maybe end of second. I'm not sure if I answered her question like she want, like,
No, it's I think it's great, Sean.
okay.
You have another question this time about secondary. Well, I guess there are two parts to this question. How often do you introduce new words? Question one, and then question two, how would you adapt this for a 55-minute class in a secondary setting?
Yeah, so like it depends on what, if you have in a secondary setting, if you're teaching other things besides work, like besides this curriculum, I think you can definitely put parts one and two together, parts three and four, and kind of cut my lesson in half. This lesson is about 35, 40 minutes on most days. So if you want this to be 20 minutes of your lesson, I think you just basically do one lesson over 2 days, and it'd work perfectly fine. If you have a 55-minute block, then you could easily just, do the whole lesson and then do something else.
And then how often are you like what's the frequency with which you're introducing new words, Sean?
So we definitely, like, this is one thing that's, I think, different than everything out there. I ramp up like the language is just ramped up. So on the odd days when Laura mentioned that we're doing word pairs, it's 3 word pairs, so it's 6 words. But the explicit instruction is pretty quick. Like, you're going through that whole routine, which you'll see in about 12, 13 minutes. But it's 6 words for the explicit instruction on one day, and the next day is a morphology matrix where the kids are learning anywhere between 5 to 10 words. About 5 words are like the focal point, though, that will be in passages, and then those words will also be in the student booklets. So you're talking almost about 5, 6 words a day, but there's so many opportunities for practice, like 10 to 12 times, where the
Are
kids
you going to be
definitely
talking
pick
on
up
soon?
most. Hmm.
A few more. I can answer some of these in the chat. Alyssa wants to know, is the word list preset, or is it taught within the context of content being taught? I can actually answer this question, but I think Sean, you can sort of speak to how you think about the.
Yeah, I mean, it's preset, like all the words I picked, because all the words are tied to specific sounds. They're tied to specific spelling patterns. And then I use those to come up with the words that I teach in pairs and the morphol and with the basis for morphology. So, you know, some of the structures I use, though, interesting, I also use in my social studies and science. Like I use additional morphology matrices in social and science as well. So like and like during novel study, I teach words in pairs as well. So some of that I'm still doing in other parts of my day.
Well, just a couple more. For fluency passages, is there a new passage every day or a new passage every week?
They're daily. Yeah.
Excellent. And then for content area teachers in secondary, how might they use it? We'll run through these really quick.
Yeah, so like this is definitely more of a literacy, I would say, curriculum. And I have things in my head that like in the future, what I would like to do is create more like morphology matrices and explicit instruction of words more focused to content in secondary. But I wouldn't call like it's the same structures, but like really focused on like a topic, like this isn't like quite that. But I definitely have that in the works in my head. It's probably about 2 years down the line.
And then I think last question for now. We know you started with sounds, but how did you decide which sounds to focus on?
Um, I just, I mean, pretty much the major sounds. I like some of the like suffix endings, like even though IO ends in a suffix, TION and SION, make shun, or like TURE makes the chur sound. I just try to take kind of the all of the sounds through 3 levels, and I focused on, I would say, the more common spelling patterns throughout those. If they're really obscure, you're probably not going to see them. You may see like for you may see like EI in there. So that's a little like with the word foreign. But like I just kind of focused on all like a bunch of spelling patterns that went along with the sounds.
Let's keep going, and
Okay.
I've put a note in the chat of where we'll pick up with the
Okay.
question.
Okay. Okay. So this is the intro. This is the first video. This is an introduction to the unit, so you could see what sounds that the kids are what spelling patterns to what sounds the kids are gonna focus on. Here we go. All right. So our next unit is focused on the ed sound. What sound? All right. So the ed sound can be spelled with a few different spellings. We have one I, a Y, very rare spelling EI, or an I consonant ending. All right, so I'm going to give you the first word. I'll take hands, and where do you think the spelling pattern fits the it sound? Ship. Ship. Sally. All right, so ship is just spelled with one I, and it makes the it sound. How about this one? Give. Give. Yes, Riley. Yeah. So we're going to talk about a little pattern here. So we have an I consonant ending E. How about the word gym? Like you walk to the gym. Owen? Just Y. Okay. So short word. The Y makes the sound. And last word, a little longer, forfeit. Forfeit. Caleb. EI, right? So here's how we spell forfeit. It's with an EI. Okay. So spelling pattern either one I, Y, EI, or I consonant. I consonant. We are going to focus on these in this unit. We're not going to focus on EI. I just want you to be aware that there's a couple of words. All right. So. Okay. All right. Okay. So 4-part lesson plan again. Spelling, dictation, and retrieval practice questions are the first part of the lesson. Okay. All right. New for 2026 that I just revised. It's also going to include quick prefixes and suffixes as well. But all of this is quick. You go through this quick daily. Okay. Okay. All right. So Laura, if you want to jump in here. This is just, or
Yeah,
ahead,
this
Laura.
is just a review of words, previously learned words. So we just do this on mini whiteboards. I will just say, and I make them do choral response, and then they write it on the board, and then we do a quick check, and then I show them the answer on my screen. So you can see that in here. I can't hear it. Can you guys hear it?
The audio is not working there, Laura.
I don't know. Yeah, should I just talk through it then?
Yeah, let's talk.
Okay. So I'll just dictate a word. I can't remember what the word is. It might be ventriloquist might be the word. So I just say the word ventriloquist, they repeat the word, then they write it, then they hover, 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 then they 3, 2, 1, chin it. You might be able, if you play it, you might be able to see all that. Yeah, so as soon as they write it, they hover it, then I know that they're ready to go. And then when the class is ready, then I say 3, 2, 1, chin it. I do a quick scan, and then I write it on the board for them. And because they are long words and these are third graders, I write them in kind of sections so that it's easy for them to check it themselves because they're quite long words. So that's an example of that.
That might have been my fault there. I was muted. Does that have anything to do with it? Or no? No? Okay.
Good, but
Okay. Okay.
we're not gonna worry about it. It's
Okay,
all
no worries. Okay. So this is spelling dictation in the intervention setting with Elana.
So you'll see the same routine. I say the word, kids repeat it, they write it on their boards. We check it on my board, and then I do the same thing. I usually spell by syllable. I say the sounds. I highlight things that might be unique spelling patterns that they're not used to. And then we give ourselves a tally if we got it right, and then or they erase and fix if they need to fix a part, just so that they're walking away with correct spellings.
The athletes trained with great vigor to prepare for the championship. Vigor. What's the word? Good. Spell vigor. Watch closely. We have vigor. And we have good. Your O-R at the end is same as your It's okay if you spell it like that. That's fine. Bigger. Either fix it or get yourself a tally.
cool. Let's pause here and just take a couple more questions if that's okay. Or so Sean's responding in the chat. Vanessa wants to know, are these previously taught words? Elana, you can take that on from an intervention perspective.
Yeah, so these are words that were previously taught, and this is like a review portion.
Great. Let's keep going.
Okay. So in the first part of the lesson, there's retrieval practice questions too. For those who have read Bringing Words to Life, this is just like a lot of examples that they use in their books as well. So like with the word regression, this is what I would say as a teacher. After weeks of study improvement, the runner's speed showed signs of regression. How is the runner doing recently compared to before? So students are thinking about, I'm just not asking them a definition. They're thinking about the word, how it applies to this context. And then I just say, turn and talk. Students turn and talk for 15 seconds. I bring them back and I call on one or two students. And just, it's like retrieval practice as a whole class. So just retrieving words that were previously learned like the day before. Her sketches showed clear progression from rough outlines to detailed shading. How did her work change over time? So it's getting better. It's moving forward. That's what you're looking for. Like when we get to even down here, he paused during the race to check on the runner who had fallen, showing compassion. What does this say about his priorities at the moment? So definitely having kids think and how it applies to that word's definition, how it applies to that context, for sure here. And like the last one, which is quick, the class discussed several ideas about the school dance, but Jordan responded with apathy. How did Jordan feel during the discussion? So you're just making kids think, having them turn and talk, and then kids are sharing out. So that's kind of the first part of the lesson plan. Okay. The second part, it flip-flops days. One part is explicit instruction, and we're going to show some videos showing the routine of teaching those words in pairs. Okay. Okay. All right. So here's mine. So keep in mind too, as I'm teaching I'm teaching a pair of words, but I've kind of ramped it up where I'm looking for kids when they're writing and spelling the words. So, and let me go back. I teach the pair of words. I teach one word explicitly, give a nice student-friendly definition, which you'll see, and then I give some examples. Then I teach the opposite word and give a couple of examples. The ending part, kids are differentiating. So this is the great part of it where kids, I'm giving them an example sentence and kids are figuring out and deciding between which word it is, and they're spelling the word down. And then you'll see as I encourage the kids to write more words on their boards. So they're retrieving previously learned words and they're associating words or trying to put them in different categories and links. They may not be synonyms, but definitely the kids are relating words. And you're going to see in here. So this clip's about 4.5 minutes. All right. So we are focusing still on the sound. And today, 2 keys will make that just one sound. So first word. Okay. I say you say the word is approach. So in this case, we're only saying the 2 keys with one sound, right? Now, I just want to show you this. I'm not going to put it in syllables today. I'm going just to draw AP prefix. What does AP prefix mean, Emily? To or towards, right? It's an assimilated prefix from AP. Approach means go near. So like, you're actually going near something. You're approaching it. So approach means to move closer or come near. So these word parts really fit. It's really clear. We watched the storm clouds approach from the west. The teacher saw the student approach her desk. Now, and Emily brought this out, I think, last week, a week or 2 ago. Word that's opposite of approach is evade. What's the word? Evade. So evade means to avoid or escape something. So she mentioned BAD, like BAS means to go. It's a twin base. BAD and BAS are the same. It's a twin base. It means to go. So evade means to avoid or escape from something. You're going away from it. If the word means to move closer, right approach. If it means to stay away, right evade. And let's do mirror words really quick. Mirror words. Approach. Evade. Approach. Evade. He walked toward the principal's office. He walked towards the principal's office. 3, 2, 1. Show me. Goal today. Oh, there's love it. Okay. I have four words here. I say you say approach, converge, congregation, attract. How are all those words related? Turn it top go. All right, so we have lots of different words here. Approach, converge, congregation, attract. How are those all like in the same category? Now,
They all need to like go to someone or go up to something.
so like they all mean kind of go up to something. Okay, let's discuss more. Aria? All right, so go to or come together. Converge, like in science, convergent plates, convergent boundaries, those plates move together, verge, turn together, they turn towards one another. A congregation, Greg meaning flock, ooh, with or together, a group of people coming together. If you approach someone, you're coming together. When you're converging, you're coming together. Attract. What does AT prefix mean in attract? Rally. To or towards. What does the TRACT base mean? Down. Oh, those things are getting pulled towards one another as well. So all of those words, approach, converge, congregation, attract, they're all kind of coming together. That was well done. Merit for Lilia. Nice. All right, next example. Here we go. The mouse ran under the couch and hid. The mouse ran under the couch and hid. The mouse ran under the couch and hid. Yes. Okay. 3, 2, 1, show me. Ooh. So I have, I say, you say, evade, hide. Ooh, the mouse was in incognito. Oh, the mouse absconded, kind of snuck away. Really nice. All right. Okay, so that just kind of gives you teaching two words, they're in contrast of one another, encouraging more words, then the kids are relating even more words that they're retrieving. So approach and evade were the two primary words, but then the kids were bringing up congregation was a word we learned earlier in the year, converge was a word we learned earlier in the year, incognito, abscond was a word we learned earlier in the year. So they're retrieving other words, and how are those words related? I think it's really, really cool. And now you're going to get to see how it works in intervention with Elana's students.
So it's the same routine that you see. I mean, we do the exact same thing, but my kids aren't quite where Sean's were. So in this process, so you won't see like them writing other words on the board. We did eventually get there sometimes. I had kids start to do that, but we're just working on the two pairs of words.
The first word that we're going to learn is transfer. What's the word? Transfer. Good. I'm gonna write down the syllable lines and we're gonna say it together. Ready? Transfer. Okay, this is okay, so same syllables again with me. Transfer. Transfer. So transfer means to move something from one place to another. Okay, so we're gonna do that. We're gonna move one thing to another. Okay, ready? Let's say it. Transfer. Okay, we're moving one thing to another. Okay, so here are two example sentences. The money was transferred from one bank account to another. Right? It moved. She decided to transfer schools for a better opportunity. Okay, here's the opposite word. Right? This is the word hate. retain. Retain means to hold on to something, right? So we're gonna say it and we're gonna hold on to ourselves. Ready? Retain. So this was transfer. Do it with me. Transfer. And this is retain. Okay? If the word means to move, you'll write transfer on your board. If it means to keep, you'll write retain. Okay, get ready? Markers open. Make sure that we're spelling them correctly. Here we go. First example. He moved his files to a different folder on the computer. He moved his files to a different folder on the computer. Which one is it? Write it down. Quick. That's it. 3, 2, 1, show me. Good, you should have written transfer, right? You move the files from one place to a different folder. Erase. And the next example. The patient was moved to a different hospital for specialized.
So as you can see there, I don't think I hit this point enough, is for words to be mapped into long-term memory. You saw it with Elana there as well. It's sound, spelling, and meaning. We want kids to be saying the words out loud. That's why there's a lot of choral response. We want the kids to be spelling those words, and we're teaching the words the meaning. So all putting those three things together is really what maps like much better words into long-term memory. Okay. So after the first two parts, well, the other part of the second lesson, as part 2 of the lesson, is structured word inquiry through morphology matrices. So this is the opposite day. So one day is teaching those words explicitly. The next day is through word inquiry. Here is a short clip. So I'm teaching DEM means people in this clip, and I start off by just saying, okay, DEM means people, and the students are spending about 5 minutes to create word sums, which you'll see, and learning words that have that base in it. Here we go. All right, we are on page 4. The base for this one is DEM. What is the base? It means people. What does it mean? All right, so. All right. What else we got? Okay. Say that again. PAN. I see. You say class pandemic. Okay, so this is a good one. Pandemic. PAN is a new prefix for us. It means all. What does it mean? All. So a pandemic, okay, is basically something that spreads among all people, like an illness, but it's not just like in the town of Hamburg, it's worldwide, okay? Like coronavirus was a pandemic because it was worldwide, not just in an area. Okay, nice. Mayor for Matt. Aria. DEM plus O plus O. What do you think a demo file is? You think it is? Caleb? Someone who loves people. Demo file. Okay. Because file, PHILE, means love. Someone who loves people. They're probably pretty friendly, loves a lot of people. Merit for Caleb, love that. Who gave me demo file? Who gave me that one? Nice, merit for Aria. Go ahead.
Number 1. There's a cute little game called that. I put it up on the web.
I love how you said the word eradicate. What do you have to do when you have to eradicate a disease? What do you got to do, Asher?
Kill it off.
Kill it off. Nice. Love it how you brought that word in as well. Miles.
I'm gonna get on plus EEN plus IC.
So endemic means it's common among the people, or it's common among a certain area. Okay. Is teaching words endemic to our classroom?
Yes.
Why? Okay, so you just got like a little clip on how those morphology matrices and like that discussion. It really is a really nice discussion, just discussing word parts and putting those meaningful parts into the spelling. So when the kids are doing the word sums, you heard them, they're like this plus this, they're spelling it out. Those are the meaningful parts, not like not it's not like phonology where you're doing like syllables for that. Okay. All right, so the third part of the lesson is fluency. So these words are embedded in passages. So kids get to read sound-wise, pronouncing those words correctly, and they're doing repeated readings. We're not going to get into, you could have all sorts of different fluency routines. That's going to be depending on your class and for sure of your students. Okay. And this is fluency intervention with Elana students.
So something that's different in that I do in the intervention is I do 4 reads actually of the text. So the first read is always me reading, and the kids come in and chorally read the bolded words or the new vocabulary words, just so that we have a feel of how they're written or read. And then the second read, we do a routine from Ebley called read, read back, read again. And then the third and fourth read they do in partners. So I think most classroom teachers kept to like the partners, but this is just an example of like what that first read with us looked like.
My goal was the retrieval of the medicine bag and to find him. It wasn't easy. The trail was covered in ice and my sled tipped twice. For a moment, I felt completely disconnected from everyone. Just the wind, the dark, and me.
Okay. So after those first 3 parts, the last part is independent practice and student booklets. So basically, there's a big student booklet for each unit. They go by unit, and I'll just show you a couple of different examples. So there's sentence composition work. People familiar with like the writing revolution. If you look here, I'll get my pen out here. So like they discarded the box. Discarded is one of the words that students are learning. When, where, why, students would jot down, and then they would write a complete sentence, using the word discarded and expanding that sentence. There are just retrieval practice activities, focusing on like the roots, the bases for SECT, meaning cut, and just in context, there's word banks for words, and students are just writing words in context. So they're trying to differentiate which word is best used in this sentence. Here's like an example. So I use this example because this is one of my students from this year. He is not an advanced student. So he's not a struggler, but I would say decent student, pretty like in the average range. But he loves kind of like, he really has built up his vocabulary this year. So this is sentence combining activity where the first sentence, the team had plenty of tools, time, and funding. Another team didn't have enough of anything. Now I want you to embed the words resources and scarcities, or a form of those words, and use a transition word while. So this is kind of ramping it up. And this is, I'm really proud of him. This is the sentence that he wrote. You'll see all the additional words that he wrote in here. While the team full of professionals packed a plethora amount of resources and gear for the venture, the team of novices only brought a paltry amount of essential resources. Subsequently, later in the hike, the amount of food and water became scarce and they had to ration. So just the number of words, he and I showed this under the document camera because it was a really good model, and I kind of joked, "Oh, you're just showing off now." But this is what kids are capable of, I think, with the right structures in place, for sure. Other things in the booklets, there are just pictures with words, associating pictures with words. There's like a beat the clock activity at the end of the unit. It's just kind of yes, no, like to exclude means to leave someone out, yes, no. And I actually timed this where you try to get kids to do it really, really quickly. Okay. So there are some additional components that we're not going to get into, but that you should be aware of. I've tried to really create a lot. There's readers theater scripts for each unit. There's extended booklets for each unit. There's pre-post test assessments for fall, spring for spelling and vocab. There's unit quizzes for the spelling and vocab. And in the works, I have in the works, I'm going to hopefully pilot some this year, is an explicit sentence composition routine focusing on sentence expanding, sentence combining, and sentence imitation, but using the words in the curriculum. So that's kind of in the works if teachers really wanted to have another 10 minutes of sentence composition. Okay. Here is an example of the Reader's Theater. The Reader's Theater is different in my curriculum, as if you notice, the words are actually what the kids are playing. It's like the character. So like if the student is playing exclude, like his sentence here for scene 1 is maybe Max doesn't need any, he hates mustard. So the kids have a lot of fun with this. And what's great is the kids who are in the audience, who are in the class, they're not just passive listeners. They are actually like detectives. They're trying to figure out which student is playing which part, which vocabulary word. So every unit, there's probably over 300 Reader's Theater scripts that are embedded throughout the curriculum. There's extended vocabulary as well for advanced students, where students are really ramping it up. Regression or progression are words that they learn in the curriculum. So the categories, it's like moving backward or forward. So now with regression, they're also learning regress, relapse, deterioration, degeneration, reversion. And for moving forward, they're learning advancement, development, evolution, and expansion. So there are extended booklets for every unit as well. Okay. And then just some structure changes. I think Elana wants to talk about this, how she adapted it to her intervention students.
Yeah, so really quick, if you're looking to do this in an intervention setting, what I looked for to form my group was kids that were already highly accurate. So these kids were anywhere reading like an ORF passage at the 92 to 98% accuracy. But their rates were pretty slow or slower. And so they were, students that were not well below the benchmark, but just below. And those are students that often in my setting don't get seen by anybody, don't get that additional support or added layer. And so those were the kids that I was able to pick up that I thought would really benefit from using this curriculum. I had about 25 to 30 minutes a day. I did see them 5 days a week. And then the lessons did take me about a day and a half. So it did run into, we got as far as we could in a day, and then it would run into the next day. And then because this was meant, Sean created it for a classroom setting, I was able to take a slightly larger group. So it wasn't just like 4 kids or one-on-one. You could do that, but it was, my group ended up being between 7 and 9 students. And then this is the same layout, or the same, it's the same as what Sean has already gone through, the different days and the different parts of the curriculum. But the things in yellow that I highlighted are just things that I added. So during the word routine at the beginning, when we did review or retrieval practice, my kids struggled a little bit with the roots. So I added the review system. And then we also did some turn and talk at retrieval, but I think Sean has added that into the newer lessons that he's updated. When I teach new words, I usually do syllable lines and sound lines. You can see in the videos, like I often point out spellings that aren't necessarily what we're working on, but things that my kids might have not seen, across their years in school. Sometimes we've added motions for kids. And then, like I said, in the fluency passages, I always did 4 reads to give them more fluency practice.
Okay. So here's, we're going to go through the data. All 3 of us are going to talk about the data. So spelling wise, I honestly like teaching kids to, fifth grade, like within my classroom, 5th grade, teaching kids to break words into syllables. But I think what is super important, having kids chorally respond, so pronunciation is important. But the word sums and morphology matrices for some students, I think has really added a component that they've never had before. These numbers are percentiles on a standardized test. So, the 68th percentile is that student did better than 68 out of 100 students of a similar age because it's a standardized test. If you just look at the numbers, like we're changed in 1 year, just changing outcomes for kids. This student was at the 5th percentile at the start of the year. Decent student. Fluency is okay, really good in content areas, but spelling was not strong, and he knows it. He's in the average range. This student from the 27th to the 73rd percentile, like that's life altering, understanding how spelling works in 1 year. What's great is every student improved. So you're talking about from the weakest students to then even these students who are about average. Oh my goodness, you're going from an average range to now, oh, you're one of the best on that standardized test. I mean, look at these students right here. So really, really big improvements. I just did this the other day. This one is not percentiles, it's percent of the words spelled correct based on word mapping project words. So there's a fall and a spring assessment. In the fall, so my weakest students, as you can see, like these are not the greatest scores on the words. And these are hard words: procrastination, foreign, rambunctious, not easy words to spell. But most of the class was below 50% accuracy on these harder words. The average 28%, and the spring 74%. And we're talking huge. I mean, like some kids going from 24% to 93. This student, I want to highlight, she definitely has significant spelling issues, and she went from getting 3 out of 45 questions spelled right to 35 out of 45 in just 1 year. I think it's substantial improvement. I've seen it even improvement on state tests. So this is this slide is all of the districts in my county in New York, in Erie County. On the state reading assessment, New York State, my classroom proficiency was 90% last year. And it was better than even all the affluent districts that are around me. I do not work at a needy school, but my district is definitely not one of the most affluent. My district is frontier. Affluence wise, we're probably in this area here. But my kids are even doing better than students in really affluent schools. Interesting, pushing students to get 4s, the highest, like an advanced level. Over the years, I've been getting consistently 50% or more. I attribute a lot of it to all the language that I've been doing in my classroom. It carries over to science even more because those academic words are found on state science tests. So the difference between my classroom and the next classrooms, it's substantial different. And I think the kids are not scared of the academic words, and they know a lot more because we've really scaled it up throughout the year. Does it help struggling readers? Here is the line for proficiency on the New York State assessment. The blue bar was how they did in 4th grade. So how my 5th grade students did in the previous year. And the red bar is how they did at the end of 5th grade in the state assessment. So 3 out of 5 students actually reached the proficiency mark. This student, I mean, that's a huge. They went from the lowest level to a mid three proficiency level. So out of all the students, 4 out of 5 made really, really good gains based on just a standardized New York State test, which is really hard to do. Okay. And I'll let Laura take it over.
So just a couple data points from mine. This is the NWEA MAP reading assessment. Um, I had 70, our whole grade, because our whole grade did this, had 79% at or above the 50th percentile, and then 74% at or above the 65th percentile. And we've kind of correlated that if our students are scoring at the 65th percentile, it we we can kind of predict that they will be proficient on our state assessment as well. So and that's pretty huge growth for that grade level as well. They kind of haven't seen those kind of scores before. And then, yeah, you can do the next one. On our Wyoming test of proficiency and progress assessment, that our state test, this is the highest score we've ever gotten since we started recording in 2021. There is kind of a caveat. There was always a writing component attached to that until 2025, but even then, we're still seeing this score going up. So it's exciting to see that this is having an impact outside of just the word mapping project portion itself.
And then in my district, we use Dibbles 8 for our benchmarks. And you can see like the beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year in both accuracy and rate, and then their maze scores too. So you can see that even the students, like Sean was saying, the same pattern held true for my students, even students who were at 98% accuracy, they all reached, almost all of them reached 100%. So really hard to increase that last bit, but they did. And then kids are moving from, 69 words to 111 words or 124, right? And so then this next one, oh.
Sorry.
No, you're good. So just a lot of growth there too. And kids were making, getting to benchmark by the end of the year. You can see the goals are at the top where they needed to be. So a few of them made it to there as well. And then you can change it. And I just thought the next part was interesting. I had one student who was in an intervention group in my 5th grade group who did the word mapping project in her classroom as like a tier 2. And then she came to me and did EBLI instruction in tier 3. And she was still a child who hadn't exited access testing. And so you can see her composite score from last year and then her composite score this year and the growth there. And then you can see on the left at the bottom, her reading and her comprehension scores are, just as high as her listening scores. So really good improvement there as well.
So besides for data, just some general observations I think we want to talk about, because it's more than just like they're kids. It's more than just like a data point.
So my kids, they started using, these are behaviors that we really haven't seen before. They started using these words in conversation. Even when we were having celebrations, we were having cupcakes and they had different colored frosting on it. And one student said, "Mrs. Gordon, I'm an outlier. I have the yellow frosting. Everyone else had pink and purple." So just using them in just different contexts. They were asking questions about how words are spelled and just their interest level, jumped from not really being interested in anything before. They did start writing words like you can see in the picture. That was from a student. He was, after map testing, he was writing words on his board. And then at the very end of the year, I had a sign-up sheet for my students because we never really had time to get to the extension booklets and I don't have them all day. And so they signed up to take booklets home, which I've never really seen intervention students be that interested in a curriculum before.
I wrote about this on a Substack. So really quickly, I'll just my pen, a pen that a student gave to me broke. I ran out of ink, and I kind of played it up because it was like the only pen I didn't like lose right away. I had it for over, I think 2 months, and I was just looking really down, and this is what the students just started saying, like, "Oh, Mr. Morrisey, you look distraught." One student's like, "Oh, he looks solemn," and someone said, "Oh, he's filled with melancholy." And another student's like, "Oh, he's almost despondent." Like, just like that fun with words in the class. A student came out of their seats, like patted my back, and I'm like, "Oh, you're showing me compassion." And my one student, and he's a bit of a mover. I love him to death, and he like shouts out. He jumps out of his chair. He took the insert out of his a pen from his desk, and he's like, "We can transplant this, Mr. Morrisey." And we kind of played that up, and we couldn't. I tried. I got the players out. And then like at the end, like one of my students kind of laughed and said, "Nice exaggeration, nice exaggerated sense of anguish, Mr. Morrissey." So just it was just fun. Like kids like they become word nerds, I think. Okay. Um,
So I don't, one day we were doing, I said, it's time, it's time. We called it skills. And I said, it's time for skills. And one of my students shouts out, I love skills. Skills is my favorite time of day. And then it just started this like ripple effect, and everyone just started talking about why they love skills. And so then I decided to record it. And then when I hit record and actually record, so then I did it a third time. So when you watch it, it seems a little canned and not quite as spontaneous as it really was, but it really was spontaneous. I don't know if we have time to show it. But then at the end of it, we did at the end of the year, I just had them do a concept map of all the words that they could remember. So I think I have a video of
yeah.
just pictures of that. But
We only have 2 slides left, and they're both fairly short. So here we go.
Eagle.
dang it. Oh, Sean. Oh, no, you're not muted.
How do you like skills?
Oh, we can't hear it.
Can't hear it. Ah, too
Yeah,
bad.
maybe when you get
Okay.
the video, you can hear
Okay.
it. So,
All right.
yeah.
Go back
Yeah.
and watch all of Laura's videos because they do work on the slides. We have no
Okay.
explanation.
All right. So this is the last slide, folks, and I am not I'm not a teacher that does slideshows for so like I'm a little proud of myself with this one. It just shows you I just took pictures of a lot of the words that the kids wrote on on their whiteboards during explicit instruction. So you'll get to see kind of what kids are capable of. Here we go. So that's just what I honestly I get a little bit choked up. I just wanted to make kids word nerds and write a curriculum that would do that. And I'm hoping that people who use it, and I think like Laura and Alana see it like that, like they see that they're going to see what I've seen for years.
Thank you guys so much for sharing. We have a few questions. And I think folks keep them coming. If you want to stick around a little bit longer, we'll be here as long as we have questions. So one question that Katie so kindly has now asked twice and I've overlooked. She's curious for spelling. Do you teach the pattern, as in how to know when to use an I versus a Y versus an IE versus a I blank E for short I sound, or is it something you have them memorized through rote practice?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think like fifth grade, I think where kids struggle a lot in fifth grade is with suffixes. So with morphology and the word sums, they'll learn certain rules and they practice so much like, words ending in E almost all the time. You'll drop the ending E to add a vowel suffix like OUS, ION, ED, ING. There are a few words like advantage, advantageous, where you can't drop the ending E because it softens the G, but they definitely will learn some rules and things like that throughout. I don't think it gets as specific like where like Emily will like go through the sounds in that because it's just so like vocabulary based, but there's still a lot of it in there.
There's another question from a little earlier. Sean, will you be adding Pete Bauer's structured word inquiry new sentence matrix with the sentence work additions?
Yeah, that's so new. I'm a big fan of Pete Bauer's work. Obviously, there's so many matrices in here. I want to see how that plays out. And I'm not like I need to really ramp up my knowledge. I've only really like looked at it for probably about an hour. So maybe down the road, but not. I'm a big fan of the kilogallons actually in Writing Revolution. The research is clear. Sentence combining, sentence imitation, and sentence expansion are like three of the in research that has shown that they work. So I'm going to focus on those down the road, maybe, but I honestly probably want to see a little bit more research with that.
We're getting a bunch of questions about costs. Is there a quick answer to that question in terms of like, I guess cost, but then also time for training?
Yeah.
What to expect if you go out and buy this tonight?
So if there's individual teachers buying it at my website, Word Mapping Project, the initial cost for a year is $2.99, and that actually gets you access to like it's the PD depending on how fast you want to do it, but it's between 10 and 15 hours. So there's a lot of morphology PD in there. There's teacher videos as well. And that is no additional cost. That's part of just buying into the curriculum. So when you buy as a teacher, depending on the grade level, if you're an interventionist, like you tutor, you can email me. It depends on like the age of your students, but you usually buy into one level, A, B, or C, and the cost is $2.99. It's a subscription, so the following year it's $99, but I'm going to be adding a lot to the platform where it won't just be word mapping, but there'll be other things in there. Like when I start doing the sentence writing work, I'm not going to charge extra for that. You'll just have access to it.
This is probably a good opportunity to put in a plug. If you're interested in winning a 1-year license for the word mapping project, and supporting a really good cause, a teacher-led conference in Wyoming, that is specifically designed for other teachers, feel free to buy like a raffle ticket or two. I'm going to drop the link in the chat again. This is going to be an amazing conference because again, it is for teachers by teachers, which is what we are all about here, obviously, and what the word mapping project is all about. So this would be I don't know, Laura, what do you think the odds are? I guess it depends on how many raffle tickets get purchased, but like decent odds of getting a free 1-year license, I think.
Yeah. Well, there's two chances to win. There's
So
two licenses, so yeah.
Even better. Couple more questions. Sean, do you recommend starting at level A regardless of the grade level, or is that like a judgment call on the teacher's part?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I like my curriculum isn't like it's not like math where you need level A before level B. Just so the structures and routines are the same in every level. The words might be slightly harder in level C compared to level B and A. Level A fluency passages are written at the third grade level, level B at the fourth grade level, and level C at the fifth grade. So that's the kind of the big difference. But if you're a fourth grade teacher, I would just do level B. If you're a fifth grade teacher, do level C. If you're secondary, like middle school, I think level C to start is your best bet. I plan on writing a level D for secondary folks as well, but that's probably about a year or two down the road.
Any other questions before we let folks go home? Drop them in the chat.
I saw one about like using it for tutoring or one-on-one. Certainly interesting because I think teachers like were a lot of teachers are waiting for the summer to like really get into many tutors have already purchased and they're using it one-on-one with elementary students, some even with adults. So the age range is very interesting. Like I didn't think about that even when I wrote it, but it's being used in a one-on-one setting.
Um, is a printed manual everything, or is a printed manual available, or do we print everything? Is it necessary to keep print?
Yeah. So it is all downloads right now. So the thing when you get into like with publishing, then you're kind of stuck. You can't make revisions. I want to try to make revisions like sort of constantly, like even though this question sounds better here. So unfortunately, like right now it's all printing.
Cool. Yeah, Sean and I were just talking about this last night. Sean, can you speak to how the word mapping project compares to UFly's new word origins?
All right. So I'm the creator, right? So like, I feel like I'm probably a little biased, but I have looked at word origins because UFly's a behemoth, right? I'm just one person going against, going against Goliath. Um, I honestly think word origins does have morphology matrices in there. They'll do a little bit with the entomology and they have word sums. So they definitely incorporate that. They do not have like 1,000 words that are explicitly taught over the three levels. They have one fluency passage at the end of the unit. Word mapping project has daily fluency passages. Um, the if you look at I think the scale of how much kids can learn, I just have a lot like take a look at what words they teach in a unit and what words I teach. And there is a stark difference there. There's a lot more words taught in a unit. Word origin seems it seems sound for sure. Like it's a sound group. I don't think UFly would have bought onto it. But I think if people start comparing there's a lot in mine, even like the Reader's Theater, the extended booklets that Word Origins I don't think really has.
Another question for you, Sean. How many classrooms tried this out this past year? Because I know it's not just Elana and Laura and you.
Yeah. So interesting. We started with about 50 piloters, and that scaled up because like the third grade teacher, like the third grade teacher next door wanted to try it too. So we ended up, I think it was a little less than 100. It was probably about 90 teachers piloted this year.
This is an open question. Laura Wood has an interesting question. What do people think about the high frequency word project? Too far in the weeds or worth pursuing? I don't know anything about that.
It sort of goes into the sort of typically second grade, like the high frequency words like said, and it just like gets really deep into the etymology. And I have the book, I'm looking at it, but I don't want to get distracted and too far in the weeds, like I said, if it's going to distract from what it should be doing.
Yeah, I think anything with with structured word inquiry, and I probably I have a great amount of respect for Pete Bowers, like his work. I would probably differ where I think he talks about using the matrices and that a lot more in the younger grades. I think phonology really has to come first. And when you start using matrices, it's more middle, second, in third grade and on. Um, so I don't know I don't know if the research just isn't there for early grade use yet, I don't think.
Sean, can we revisit the ION
Yeah.
yeah, suffix?
So the words like progression, it's based on sound, right? Or contention. So the shun sound is spelled Tion or Sion, but the suffix is Ion. In word mapping project, the difference is clear and the kids learn that. They learn the sounds, but they also learn the meaningful parts. So, in the word contention, they'll learn the prefix is con, the base is tent, and the suffix is ion. So they learn the meaningful parts, but we also want them to learn the sound too. Like if you hear a word ending in chur, unless you're adding er to teach, it's spelled ture, rupture, rapture. Like kids mess up that spelling the whole time, and if we just focus on it, then they get all those hard words right because it's ture makes chur at the end.
More data. Do we have more data from other classrooms to share?
Yeah, so I don't have it I can't put it up right here. So definitely other teachers besides just the three shared. Joe Finch out of California has shared on Twitter some of his data. He works at a very needy school, so his fifth graders are different than my fifth graders, which I like. Joe teaches similarly to me, though. He used the word mapping project. His science state test scores last year, he had one student pass the state assessment in science. His school, I think it's less than 12%, something really, really low. This year he almost reached 50%. He was at 46%. 11 out of 24 kids were proficient on that state test. We don't have any right now. I don't have any studies that we're having randomized control studies because this is new on one person. But in the future, I definitely plan to work with researchers. I'm so confident. I think the results in a research setting are going to show how what impact that this curriculum has.
Yeah, and I know of other teachers who are just not on this call tonight who've had similarly pretty substantial growth on state testing and and mid-year benchmark.
Tina wrote in the chat on her scores. She used that in her teachers
Yeah.
in the chat as well.
Um, this is a fair question that I attempted to answer on my own, but Vanessa's curious about adopting this process in a way that is connected with my own texts. Where would you and I assume the content learning her students are doing already. Are there any hacks or tricks that teachers have used to do that?
Like using some of my routines in their own content.
Yeah,
That,
I mean,
yeah,
I was thinking fluency seemed like generating your own fluency passages
yeah,
was sort of my answer, but I'm curious what others think.
yeah. I mean, I don't want. I'm sorry. I don't want to. Laura, Lana, you want to jump in? I could jump in after.
I this year I'm going to align a lot of the words that we've already learned and integrate it into the content units that I will be teaching. So if we've learned those words, I will be bringing those in and intentionally building them into my booklets as they align to what's happening. So that's something I'm going to try this year. Yeah.
And I know I work with a teacher, actually I think multiple teachers who've sort of taken over the not haven't changed the fluency routines, but they've changed the fluency passages, probably using a large language model to continue to use Sean's words, but make the passages about the content they're learning. And that feels like a really easy to me and and frankly intuitive, depending on depending on your class, like what, to do. It's not a hard thing to do, and it's really powerful to get the kids using these words in the context of the content.
Yeah, that's really smart because I couldn't like with writing a curriculum because everyone's doing something different. I couldn't do that. But yeah, taking those words and embedding those words into whatever content for additional fluency practice is really smart.
You get a lot of bang for your buck there. So yeah,
Yeah.
it makes sense that Sean can do a lot of things, but he can't make customized word mapping protocols for every single curriculum out there. I think that might actually, that might be the end of it. Any last questions, cognizant of the time? Oh, we missed this one from Susan. How many weeks / lessons in a year / level?
Yeah. So there's an introductory unit that gets like kids into like, especially the matrices. This year we kind of jumped into unit 1 and it's better like I create the intro unit now. There's 18 to 19 units per level. And you're if you do it every day like me, you'll get like I got through all the units, but like you have other curriculum. It's okay if you don't get through all the units, but there is enough units to get there's enough material to last you easily 180 days, for sure. Some schools, interesting, like one school by me, they're gonna do the 3 levels over 4 years, because their elementary is 3 through 6. So we're just kind of like taking like they're gonna instead of doing 18 units, they're probably gonna do about 14 per year, and they're gonna do it that way.
Uh-huh. Awesome. Yeah, Laura wants to know, is there a scope and sequence available for each level?
I do have the words in a scope and sequence, so I can get that to her.